India has been fighting Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror right from 1947, but in its current form since 1990, in fact even before 1990, and yet incidents like these raise very serious questions about some of our SOPs, our standard operating procedures, and the ability of the terrorists to strike at will. Let's try and make sense of some of these developments. Two of the most authoritative voices join me on the show. Lieutenant General Satish Dua. General Dua has been former Kashmir Corps Commander, and Shishpal Vaid is former Director General of the Jammu and Kashmir Police. But also with me on the show, Sunil Ji Bhatt joins us from Ground Zero in Rajouri, and Ashraf Wani from Srinagar. Ashraf, what's the latest with the operations in Kokarnag? Do we know details of the terrorists who were involved in this incident?
Yes, there are some clues about those terrorists involved in this ambush attack on the security forces in Kokarnag forests. It is believed that there is one local terrorist in the Kokarnag area who is active since last 1 year. He is with two foreign terrorists who are hiding for last many months in the forest. In fact, there was tip-off on which this operation was launched jointly, by, as you said, by Army and the Jammu and Kashmir Police in the Kokarnag area. But there was some kind of miscalculation where probably the terrorists might have some clue about the movement of the security forces towards their hideout, and they indiscriminately fired on the leading party, which was headed by and led by the commanding officer himself of 19 Rashtriya Rifle, which is responsible in the area, then also the company commander of the area and the DSP of the same area in Kokarnag and Anantnag. Now, the main focus of the security agencies is to trap and neutralize these terrorists in the dense forest, but it is very tough because there is a vast area, as you talk about the Pir Panchal. Yes. There are so many ways and nalas around that forest where the terrorists can hide or move out, but security forces have now inducted the special forces also in the operations. As you said, the aerial vehicles are being put in the action to monitor the movement of the terrorists in the area, and the cordon has been intensified and extended also. So probably believe that tomorrow with the first flight, security forces can get any kind of clue about
Stay with me, Sunil Ji. Very alarming what the Army Commander said. Army Commander Northern Command told you that terrorists are now coming by road using either the Punjab border route or they're coming in from Nepal.
Well, Gaurav, there has been a change in strategy as far as Pakistan is concerned and terrorists are concerned. Now they are focusing on the hill districts of Jammu region, particularly the twin border districts of Rajouri and Poonch. And that is why in the last 2 years, we have seen that terror activities have increased in both these districts. There have been many counter-terror operations. There is presence of, terrorists still there in the forest belt of Rajouri and Poonch. And I have been speaking to my sources in the security establishment, and they have confirmed me that as many as 3 groups of, foreign terrorists, Pakistani terrorists are active in the forest belt of Rajouri and Poonch, and they are, hiding there. They may also be receiving some logistics support from their local, supporters. And that is why the security forces have, intensified their operations in the border districts of Rajouri and Poonch. Okay. And redeployments are also being sent. More troops are being deployed there. And the priority is to, neutralize these terrorists as soon as possible, because these terrorists are looking for an opportunity to carry out a major, terror strike on the security forces and security installations.
But my concern is, Sunil Ji and Ashraf, and I want to bring in General Dua and Mr. Vaid. Even if you kill terrorists who are already in India, it's like pruning the branches or leaves of the terror tree with roots in Pakistan. These leaves will grow again. The branches will become stronger again. You have to keep pruning these branches and leaves. Shouldn't you strike at the roots of terror? But General Dua, before I come to that question, General Dua, the loss of a commanding officer, the loss of a company commander and the loss of a DSP in one single operation would point to a very alarming ability of terrorists to strike at the military leadership. Some lowly scum of a terrorist killing the cream of our army.
First of all, Gaurav, let me just express my condolences to the families of those who made the supreme sacrifice and also to their units. Sad as it may be, but Gaurav, everyone will agree. It also shows that our leaders, our officers lead from the front. They are there at hand wherever combat takes place. It is sad that we lost three such brave hearts who were in the leadership position. But, you know, this unit 19 Rashtriya Rifles is a very fine unit. When I was a corps commander several years ago, it is 19 RR
Yes.
which killed, eliminated Burhan Wani. You have yourself come there and been to Anantnag that time.
Yes, sir.
And so this unit will avenge the death of these leaders. But yes, it is sad. And but allow me also to say, it is an occupational hazard when you lead the men from front.
Should we relook CEOs leading from the front when you're going after terrorists? I mean, if it's a Hafiz Saeed, I can understand. If it's some terrorist, let the hierarchy. I'm sure there are SOPs who should lead and who shouldn't. But of course, that's your job. You know that best, sir. I'm just looking at it from outside. But
no, allow me 30 seconds to say this.
Go on, sir.
You are right to say what you said. And we don't know the circumstances of the case as to how it happened.
True,
sometimes it happens. I have, as a colonel, as a CO, I have myself been in combat situations up in front. Sometimes it happens that before the cordon is established, the terrorists open fire, which is a little rare. So they try to hide their position normally till as late as possible. So we don't really know the circumstances of the case as to how this incident took place. That will come out by and by. But yes, we have our SOPs in place, and all the processes. I'm sure the due processes were followed. We will know that by and by as the time progresses.
Fair enough. Ambushed both north and south of Pir Panjal in multiple that terrorists and their handlers across they decades, and perhaps they found loopholes. That you'd recall the one that took place south of Pir Panjal when that terrorists fired from a higher ground and
Gaurav, my tribute to and our heartfelt sympathies with the families, the whole country is with them. But you're right. In fact, today's incident of how our SOP been seen and intercepted. What initial information tells me that whoever was handling him, there is a built a hideout where 2, 3, or 4 disclosed of foreign terrorists is and I will if you and on that information an operation was launched. I think at some times such sources are compromised also.
Yes.
And you have that risk, Gaurav. But as General Dua was saying, we all have worked in these positions as CO, as district SP, as deputy SP. We all have led operations. But yes, my hunch is this: we need to look after we are free from the operation, whether this source was compromised or not. That aspect needs to be looked into, of course. But even if he was not, there was a hideout. There was a likelihood of a sentry protecting that hideout.
Yes.
And we had spotted the senior officers, a contingent coming led by the CEO and also consisting of the army major and the deputy SP. Probably that, because I was not on the spot, my apprehension is all these 3 terrorists have targeted these officers. They, without them knowing about exact location of the hideout.
Yes.
I think something like this must have happened. And I was talking to somebody there. This is the information I could collect. So
True.
we need to look into this.
Jal
And
dua, time to rely more on technology, because my questions come from absolute love and respect for our men and women in uniform. You know how much our nation respects our braves, and they're an asset who are irreplaceable. So out of sheer respect, my question is, should we be sending in more technology, whether it's unmanned aerial vehicles, whether it's sending in more cameras, in whichever way, before we send in our people, and 3 officers being sent in together? Or does all of that need to be looked at? And then later you had the GOC and the DGP going in there. So in 2019, again I was on ground covering what happened after Pulwama. We had injuries to a DIG and a brigade commander. And so you'd recall in Jammu, we'd had injuries to very senior officers when they visited an incident after a terror strike. One terrorist was hiding and he opened fire. This, if I remember correctly, was late 90s, early 2000s, sir.
Yes. Yeah, you're right, Gaurav. But I couldn't agree with you more. We should use technology. We should use technology till the extent we can. But sadly, or unfortunately, in these mountainous areas and in these thickly forested areas, it's very easy for someone to imagine that an armed aerial vehicle, a drone could be used, or cameras can be sent in. There is such thick and dense cover that UAVs or drones cannot picturize, cannot do good surveillance of the effective surveillance of that area. So, unfortunately, in such jungle and mountainous terrain, boots on ground have to be resorted to.
Yes.
Having said that, to your question about senior officers going there, I agree with you that senior officers should not be going there, and I'm very confident. I have not spoken to anyone, nor do I know the details, but I'm very confident that when the corps commander or the DGP have gone there, they haven't actually, it's as is reported in some of the news channels, that they went there to take charge of the situation. No, they haven't. They, when such deaths have taken place, they have actually moved up out of their headquarters,
Yes,
gone in the general vicinity to the unit or to the headquarters that is controlling that operation, maybe to the sector headquarters, or just to raise the morale of the Jawans, just to
yes.
raise the morale of the troops, that we are there with you, we are behind you. They are not going to be getting into operational issues or nitty-gritties at the encounter site. That will still be left to the battalion and the company commanders.
That's a very important point you make there, sir, that our officers lead from the front, whether it's a company commander, the commanding officer, or the general officer commanding himself, out there with the soldiers right at the front to boost their morale. And this is what makes the Indian Army the most formidable fighting force. I then leave our viewers with that question: is it then time to strike terror at source, strike at the roots of terror? And that's the only way to deter the radical Islamist terror that comes from that state sponsor of terror, Pakistan. But as I leave you with this thought, time to declare Mahabharat on radical Islamist terror coming from Pakistan.